Hello and welcome to the Game Design Archive with Edward and Ludwig.
Hello.
Hello. Today we are gonna ask the question, what's the point, Mr. Designer?
Yes. So, in game design circles, there seems to be a lot of hype for immersive sims, right?
Mhm.
Like, everyone talks about the great classics like Deus Ex and System Shock and whatever. And you always, when you hear about these games, you always hear like, wow, they're so good, but they sell really poorly, so like, it's so sad. What if more games were like these games? And I guess we're here to say that there's a good reason for this. Would you agree, Edward?
Uh, yes and no. So
Yes and no.
yeah.
Go ahead.
So I should start. So
Yeah.
I think they like. So I would say maybe they do sell well, but the problem is relative to like the cost of making one, right? Because there's a lot of things that don't do anything in them, right?
Yeah.
Because you need to make a lot more money if you can play the game in any way, right?
Yeah. So a classic example of this is Prey, right? The arcane one, not the old one. Which I don't know. I think it sold pretty well now, but when it was released, it sold pretty poorly. And now people are looking back at that game like a cult classic, like, oh wow, this game was so good. Why didn't it sell better? Now the problem, which I'm going to get into now, is that the game is boring. Um, there's a lot of things in Prey that's good. The quest design is absolutely fantastic. Like there are some fantastic like quest lines slash missions where it's like there's like actually interesting mysteries or whatever that the player needs to solve, right? You haven't played Prey, right?
No.
Well, it has really good quests, and like the level design is pretty good. Like it's sort of an open world, but it's like it connects into itself, right? There's like this central hub, and then you go out, and then you return, and then you go out another way. And then of course there's a bunch of systems, right? It's like one example, which is a very good example because it's kind of related to the point of the video, is the mimic system, right? So there's like aliens that can transform into any object on the map, like any prop, and then they hide, and then you like smash them, and you need to guess where they are and whatever.
Yeah.
And the problem with Prey is that like there are a bunch of systems, but none of them really matter, right? And this like mimic system is a perfect example because the player can like learn abilities to become a mimic, so they can like mimic other objects and stuff, which is like super cool, right? In a theoretical like, wow, you can become one of the enemies and you can become any object you want or whatever.
Yeah.
But like the actual gameplay implications of that are not really interesting. Like there's no point in doing it, right? I guess technically you could like.
Unless
sorry?
they play around it, which I don't know. I haven't played it, but maybe they don't.
Yeah, they don't.
Okay,
Is sort of my point. It's like you can turn into any object you want, but like, why would I? Right? And so it seems like there's this sort of like with immersive sims in general, there seems to be this like intellectual circle jerk or whatever you want to call it, where it's like, wow, this is so cool. Wow, this is so systematic. Wow, this is so epic. But like, none of the systems actually matter, so the games end up not being really interesting.
Yeah. Well, there has to be some systems that are interesting, I guess, because otherwise no one would like it.
Yeah.
I think for me, I don't know if I would dislike Prey. I don't know. I haven't played it, but there is definitely too much going on, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like the one that I can relate to is always Dishonored that we've mentioned before, right? Which is Dishonored is a stealth game, and it's it plays at its best when you're stealthing, right?
Yeah.
And it is interesting because of its systems. The problem is that I'm not completely sure. How should I say this? So like it's sort of interesting that you have options. Like for example in Dishonored, right? You can be like like you have different approaches to the problem, right?
Yeah.
That is kind of interesting, but I guess that doesn't affect the core loop as much in Dishonored because you're stealthing. I don't know.
Yeah, I think Dishonored is like probably the best immersive sim I've played, if you even want to call it an immersive sim.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because it's like a mainly stealth game, but with immersive sim philosophy, right? It's like you're just plopped down into the map and then you solve the mission, right?
Yeah.
And that's sort of very interesting in a way. But like Dishonored is still a stealth game at its core, right?
Yeah.
I mean, technically you can like go all out and whatever, but that's super boring. And I guess that's absolutely a problem with Dishonored. But I think one good example is like one thing that a lot of yeah, go
like one thing I think we need to make a distinction here. I think at least for me is that I don't necessarily think that having lots of options is bad. It's just that so if we take Dishonored as an example again, right? Having a lot of tools or whatever to solve the situation is fine, but
they need to matter, or
yeah, sort of. It's very hard to because like I can think of other games where it's like, I mean, we mentioned this in a couple of episodes ago with like RPGs where like they'll have all these RPG systems and it will take longer to learn how the systems work than to just not use them because the difficulty is not enough, right, for them to matter. And it's sort of a similar thing where it's like, oh, you can do all these cool abilities, but they unless they I'm trying to think, because the thing with Dishonored, because it's a stealth game, is you actually have utilities for some of these like more quirky stuff. Like I don't remember exactly, but in the second one there's like you can control people and stuff, right? And if you're stealthing, that sort of makes sense, right? Because well, you can move someone or something, right? But if you're playing a action game, right, then you can control them or you can just shoot them, right? It's sort of giving you options because it looks fun to do or something, but it takes more time, right? I think that's sort of a thing with it as well. It shouldn't take longer to do because you're gonna do it once and then you're gonna, okay, cool, this thing is not as good as just shooting or whatever, right? I guess that's what kind of the point you're trying to make.
Yeah, I think a lot of like the problems with immersive sims can be summed up in like that. It's like I think a perfect example that like a lot of immersive sims have is doors. You know, they'll have doors, and you know, depending on if it's like a fantasy or sci-fi, you can either hack the door or you can lockpick it, and like but then you also have the option of like blowing the door up, or you have the option of going and finding the code to the door, or you have the option of going into some secret vent and going around the door, and you know, stuff like that. And most of the time the easiest thing to do is to just walk in and shoot everyone. And so it doesn't really matter. It's like you can make this like epic character which is spec'd into lockpicking and whatever, but you can also just ignore that and just shoot everyone because that's always faster. And I think that's a very big problem with immersive sim, because it like, well, it's sort of as you said, it like kind of, there's no point in doing all this other cool stuff. Like, there's no point in all of this other cool stuff even existing, right? Because it's pointless. Perhaps I explained that poorly, but you kind of get what I mean. It's like, yeah, I can pick the lock. Yeah, I can go find the secret route around the door. Yeah, I can blow the door up, but like, I can just shoot everyone and then press the button and unlock the door. And it sort of makes everything else not matter.
It might actually be a difficulty issue, Because
absolutely.
You could argue that if it was harder to just shoot everyone, you would use the tools more, maybe.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think that's sort of one of the main points I wanted to like bring forward, I guess. It's that the problem is that there aren't enough interesting consequences to the systems, right? There's, if I decide to go guns blazing and shoot everyone, like there's nothing interesting that happens when I do that. Or when I decide to hack the door instead of, finding the code or whatever. There are no interesting consequences to anything. It's just like you can do this in any way you want, and whichever way you do it doesn't matter. It's like
I think the reason people think this is nice is because people struggle with replays of games, and this gives them a real reason for that. What I mean by that is people, I mean in general, obviously there's people that don't, but they will play a game once, right? And then their argument will be, well, what's the point to play it again or something, right? And for games that have systems like this, that gives them a reason to play it again, because what they'll do, like you said, they'll do a run where they kill everyone, and then a run where they, I don't know, hack all the doors or something, and that gives them replay value in a way.
I think.
I mean, obviously, I prefer if the game is just hard and interesting.
Yeah.
Obviously, I think both of us have a bias towards games that are more focused, right? So
yeah. But I think one sort of big part of the discussion, I guess, I think a lot of the like appreciation for immersive sims comes from designer community or whatever. Like, do you get what I mean? It's like
I don't know if I think that. I feel like that is true as well, I guess, but I think it also comes from the programmer side a bit.
Yeah.
Because programmers love systems, and they don't generally care that much about the consequences of the systems, right? They just want to code systems, so they don't think about them in terms of gameplay. They think of them in terms of whatever, realism or something.
Yeah, or like complexity.
Yeah.
But yeah,
like just a small example, like physics stuff, right? Where it's there's all these physics objects everywhere. Look, you can move the boxes or whatever.
Yeah.
You can blow the things up, and it's cool or whatever. But I mean, that was a bad example. Really, but I think I kind of get what I'm saying. Right?
Well, yeah, it's actually a good example because I'm pretty sure that's how Deus Ex works, right? It was quite a while ago I played that, but like every prop in that game is an interactable physics object, but you never end up really using it. I think there's maybe a few sections where they design the level to be like, oh, look, you can do something cool with the physics interaction, like in the beginning of the game, but then they forget that for the rest of the game, right? So it's very very tech demo-y in that way. But yeah, what you said is still related to the point, I think, because what I was going to say is that I think a lot of the immersive sim appreciation comes from like a theoretical standpoint. It's like this game is so cool in theory, right? You can do this any way you want, whatever, but it isn't really interesting. And I think this is why immersive sims are often like seen as an underrated genre, because everyone looks at an immersive sim and they think, wow, that's so cool that you can do all these weird things, but when you actually play them, they aren't very interesting, right?
I mean, they could add so if we're making an argument, how should I say this? If we try to compare, this is if any immersive sim enjoyers are watching, they're gonna get mad here. But I'm gonna compare immersive sims to more like more crafting oriented games or whatever. So let's compare it to of course I can't remember the name now. Valheim, something like that. And I think the reason, I would say they are sort of similar, except for the level structure, right? Where it's like you have a lot of options, right? Yeah. Just the options part is similar. But those games usually have, well, I don't know what the right word is. Implicit goals is probably not the right word, but you know, you need to find. I mean, I haven't played it, but you know what I mean.
I have played Valheim.
Yeah. So you build the houses, actually, right? And then like you build a better house, and you try like there is goals in the game, and you need to utilize the systems, right? That's sort of the point. And I think that's why games like those are more popular than the more freestyle sandboxy games, right?
I think Valheim actually does this slightly better than many other sandbox games, because Valheim is very what's it called? Like you're like
it feels there's a lot of goals, it feels like, but
because you're like in the beginning of the game you spawn in like the beginner biome, and then you like progress in the beginner biome until you become powerful enough to go to the second biome, and then to the third biome and the fourth biome. So there's like a very clear goal. It's like I want to become powerful enough to go to the next biome. And so I think Valheim does that part a bit better than other sandbox games. Of course, Valheim still isn't the best game ever, right? But like, in that, I think that's why it's a popular sandbox game, right? Because it is very successful. But I was going to say something, but I forgot what it was. I guess sandbox games, right? It's like I feel like they suffer a lot from the same thing. So, for example, I play a lot of EU4, right? And I do like EU4, but EU4 is technically a sandbox game, right? Europa Universalis 4, if you don't know it. It's a what's it called? Grand strategy game, whatever. But the thing about EU4 is that you select a nation to play, right? And then you play it, and there's no goal. It's just like you play it for the sake of the game, I guess. And the problem, one of the major problems with EU4 is that after not too long, the game becomes kind of boring. It's like because the game spans from like 400 years, and it's like the first 100 years are actually interesting because that's when you're fighting for survival in a way. And then the rest of the game is super boring because like when you've done the first 100 years, there's like nothing really stopping you. Like there might be some temporary road bumps, but after that it's like you're pretty much set. Like there's nothing actually threatening you, and so the game becomes super boring after that. And I think immersive sims suffer a bit from this too, where it's like they don't even really have an interesting beginning, right? Because there's never really anything threatening your life. And I think it goes back to what you said. I think a lot of the problems with immersive sims simply comes from difficulty. Like, it's not difficult enough to just go in and shoot everyone. Or like, if I spec into lockpicking only, I like the fact that I can still go around and shoot people, that's a problem, because then it doesn't matter that I spec into lockpicking, right? And stuff like that. Do you kind of get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think the more free structure works better when the game is less designed, I guess, when it's more open.
What do you mean?
A lot of immersive sims are very structured, right? With their
missions
and stuff.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't know, I'm thinking Minecraft or something, right? Or Valheim that we just mentioned, where it's the systems, you could argue they don't have a point, right? But you can also give them a point because the game is less structured, right? If you play something like Minecraft, I mean, they've added a bunch of garbage, right? So there's goals now, but My point is that in a game like Deus Ex or Prey or whatever, your goal is to beat the mission, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that creates an incentive that is unaligned or whatever with the mechanics.
Oh, that's a very good point. Yeah.
So you're trying to beat the mission, whereas in Minecraft you're, I don't know, building a house or something, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter because the goal, you make your own goals mostly in Minecraft, right? But that's not the structure of an immersive sim. You have the goals of the game. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, to I guess clarify your example, or maybe ask if I've understood it correctly. It's like, if we made Minecraft or into an immersive sim, or vice versa, it's like in Minecraft you spec into lockpicking because you want to lockpick, and like that's the point.
Yeah.
Whereas in an immersive sim you spec into lockpicking, but then you also have the conflicting, right? Because I guess what you're saying is that the specking into lockpicking is like actively conflicting with finishing the mission in a way, where it's like it's not the optimal way to finish the mission, and so
I mean, you could take it more extreme. Let's say we make Minecraft to a structured game instead, and the goal is always to go to somewhere on the map, right? You'll just mine past everything, right?
Yeah, true. Very good.
So you'll just make a tunnel below the map and not interact with anything, because that's the optimal path to the end.
Yeah.
So it doesn't work.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. I actually have an example I wanted to talk about. Do I have your permission?
No.
No, fuck. Okay, video over. No, just kidding. And that's System Shock. Because I've played System Shock 1 and I've played a little bit of System Shock 2. And before I started playing System Shock, everyone, like I always heard that everyone said System Shock 2 was better. Like System Shock Good was good for its time or whatever, but System Shock 2 is the real classic.
Yeah, System Shock 1, right? Not System Shock Good. Yeah.
What?
You meant System Shock 1, right?
Yeah.
You didn't
I don't know what I said.
You said
okay,
System Shock
yeah,
Good. It's fine.
Oh, sorry, yeah. So yeah, but I played System Shock 1 first, and I actually found the game to be pretty fun. And then, like, right after I played System Shock 1, I played System Shock 2, and I was pretty disappointed. Now, System Shock 1 is way older. Like, not way older. It's like, when did that come out? Like 94, 95, 1994? I don't remember.
Yeah.
Anyways,
before your time.
It's very old school in that way. It's like you're plopped down into the level, and then there's a bunch of enemies, and then they say get to the end of the level, and then you do it, right? And the actual systems are very much combat systems. It's like, I don't know, you have like melee weapons, you have ranged weapons, and then you have traps and mines, and like that's it basically. And then there's a hacking minigame as well. But I think the thing that makes System Shock work very well is that the systems themselves are very aligned with the goal. It's like it's not like you can do this or that. It's sort of like the things that are, you need all the things that are there. You need all the mechanics to get to the goal, and they work in a very systematic way, in a sense. Whereas System Shock 2 is way more like similar to Deus Ex or other popular immersive sims, where it's like it's an RPG basically. You spec into like psionic magic, or you spec into lockpicking and hacking, or you spec into combat and whatever. And like immediately when I played that game, I noticed like, oh, okay, it's one of these immersive sims, right? And it just ended up being so much more boring, because once again it comes to this problem where it's like, yeah, sure, I can do all this cool stuff, but I can also just shoot everyone. Whereas in System Shock 1, the point was shooting everyone in a way. It was just done in a very systematic way. So that worked, and that was way more fun. than in System Shock 2, where the point is like, wow, you can do this in so many different ways, but like I also need to finish the level, so I just go around and shoot everyone.
Yeah.
And I think like playing those two made me realize why I don't find this immersive sims enjoyable in general. But System Shock 1 is good.
This made me think a bit, because we mentioned earlier a big issue might be that they're not hard enough, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I find that interesting because it sort of parallels to other genres, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you look at, for example, modern action games, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, whatever action game, New Ninja Gaiden or something,
mm-hmm.
or whatever. There seems to be a lot of mechanics, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sort of like immersive sims, right? Not exactly the same, but you get what I'm saying. They're adding a bunch of mechanics to add depth, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the issue really is that, well, at least in my opinion, right? The games are too easy, right? There as well, probably.
Yeah. But I don't think necessarily that's only the problem. I also think that like these systems, when they are added, they aren't added in a way where they matter. So it's like the game can still be hard and have a lot of pointless mechanics because the what's it called? Like the optimal strat is like simple, right? I think
you could, but what am I trying to say? I think the difficulty clarifies the design, right? So,
yeah,
so
absolutely.
if you have, I think it's more obvious in, for example, action games, right? Where it's you mentioned Final Fight a lot, right? Where it's you don't have a lot of moves, right?
Yeah.
But it's a way deeper game than a lot of newer action games, right? That have a lot more mechanics. And I think the reason for that is because if you don't make the game hard enough, you sort of miss the depth in the, and to be honest, they kind of remove it as well, right? They sort of remove the nuance, right? Because they'll say stuff like, oh, not nuanced or whatever, right? Not or is it not nuanced? What am I saying? You know what I mean? They're saying, oh, this is frustrating controls or something, right?
This is outdated.
Yeah, outdated and stuff, and that comes from not really understanding it, right? So I think immersive sims as well, right? Is they're trying to create this experience that doesn't really, I don't know how to say this, like because if you play a modern action game or whatever, right, on a normal difficulty, I mean, not all of them, obviously, there are probably good ones, but a lot of them, they're not that interesting, right? And it's sort of the same thing, I think, with an immersive sim, mostly, where you don't, you sort of need the mechanics to make it interesting. But I guess that's not necessarily true, right? But I think that's sort of where it comes from, right? Where it's, they want to add more stuff because the game is boring, right?
Yeah.
But the problem is they should just make the game not boring, and but then they're scared of scaring people away with an interesting game. So and the mechanics make the makes it broad, right? With the kind of, because you can say like, oh, there's, you know, if you can play in any way, then you could argue that anyone would be interested in it or something, right? I guess that's one of the arguments, right? Oh, the person that likes the stealth games can play this game, and the person that likes the action games or whatever. But that's, you know.
Yeah. I think this goes back a lot to like what we've been discussing many times in the podcast, I think, which is like player freedom, right? I think a lot of immersive sim designers think that, oh, well, there's so many ways to do this, and the player can be creative, and they're free to do whatever they want, so this is like good.
Yeah.
But the problem is that if none of it matters, like if I can do it any way I want, then like my actions don't actually matter in a way.
Yeah.
And that's the problem, right? So it doesn't matter if I didn't spec into lockpicking, because I can still get around the door, because there's always another way to get around the door.
Yeah.
And so the fact that I didn't spec into lockpicking doesn't matter. And I think that's where a lot of the problems from immersive sims comes, right?
Yeah, you would need. Yeah. I see what you're saying. So if you maybe I see. I'll try to.
Mm-hmm.
If you make, this will take more time, but let's say you have a mission where if you spec, but see, yeah, I guess that's more interesting. I don't know. So let's say there is a mission where if you have lockpicking, it's really easy, but if you don't, it's really hard because it's not as open about the options or whatever. I don't. Maybe more interesting. I don't know.
Yeah. Because I think the way immersive sims are designed in general is like there's a problem, and then you can solve it in like every way.
Yeah.
And so a lot of what you'll see is like, taking System Shock 2 as an example, because I talked about that. It's like you have psionic magic, and then you have hacking / lockpicking, and then you have the combat route. And then whenever the immersive sim designer designs a scenario, it's like designed so that you can use any of those routes to actually solve the scenario. And I think that's sort of the problem. What you said would probably be more interesting, where it's like, I spec'd into lockpicking and now I get to like reap the rewards.
Yeah.
Or I didn't spec into lockpicking and now I can't access this place. But what ends up happening in immersive sims is that if I spec'd into lockpicking, I unlock the door and then I go in. But if I didn't spec into lockpicking, I like walk like around the room, around the door for like 2 minutes, and then I find the key and then I go back and unlock the door. And so the fact that I didn't spec into lockpicking didn't matter at all. And that's the problem.
Yeah, so what you're saying is you would make it more into a sort of trying to figure out an optimal route through the game in terms of specking, as opposed to you can play it in any way.
Well, if I made an immersive sim, I probably wouldn't even have RPG mechanics, right? Because that's not necessarily required. But yeah, if I were doing a Deus Ex or System Shock 2 style immersive sim, I totally would.
Yeah. Because I mean that would be more interesting, because then you could in theory have, I mean there would be an optimal path, right? But there could be more than one path. So yeah, like you said, maybe one way to play it is with the lockpicking and combat or something. I don't know. It's gonna be very abstract, so it's not gonna make any sense. And then you can get some sick weapons because you know lockpicking. But if you don't do lockpicking, you can't do that. But then you have some other. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
and I think this is why System Shock 1 is actually pretty interesting, because you need to use all the mechanics. So there's combat, and everyone always has to do the combat. And there's like a hacking minigame, and everyone always has to do the hacking minigame. And so on and so on, right? So it's like, I guess it's just that the game actually puts expectations on the player, right? It's like, you need to actually play the game. It's not pick which part of the game you want to play. It's play every part, and then it's systematic and it's interesting, right?
Yeah.
Which makes it so much better than System Shock 2, for example. But there was, or did you want to say something?
No.
Yeah, there was something that we mentioned briefly earlier about difficulty, and I want to bring up an example, which is Wanted Dead. So, because Wanted Dead, at least if you play on the hardest difficulty, is a pretty hard game, right? And we mentioned that like difficulty is a big aspect of it, like the reason why immersive sims are bad, because they aren't difficult.
Yeah.
But I think Wanted Dead is a pretty good example of like how difficulty doesn't necessarily solve the problem, because Wanted Dead has a lot of mechanics. Like it has skill trees, it has a bunch of combos, it has melee combat, it has ranged combat, it has a bunch of weapons you can choose, it has a bunch of upgrades or whatever. And like the problem with all of these mechanics is that pretty much only 2 mechanics matter, right? It's like it's the shooting and the melee combat. That's what matters. And as long as you do like that part is hard. But if you like, even though that part is hard, like the rest of the game isn't, so it doesn't matter. And so what ends up happening is that you're very focused on like the melee combat and the shooting, and then the rest of the game, at least when I played, I didn't give a shit about any of it, right? Maybe you felt differently.
No, I didn't. I didn't even realize there was one for a while actually when I skill training.
Yeah. And so I think like that's I guess what I'm trying to say, right, is that the problem isn't necessarily that the game isn't hard enough, it's that the systems in the game don't have any consequences. And so, like, nothing matters. You know, as I said, for example, it doesn't matter if I spec into lockpicking because I can just go around and find the key. And so it's not necessarily about difficulty. Like, obviously, they would also become better if they were more difficult.
Yeah.
But I think you could make an immersive sim that was pretty easy, but way better than most immersive sims are, by just making sure that the mechanics actually have consequences. Do you kind of get what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I think that kind of design philosophy comes from the easier side, right? I think you start out with the mechanics, and then because they have difficulty options that are, you know, I'm not saying games can't do this, right? I'm just pointing out the consequences of it, right? Where it's they'll have really easy normal modes or whatever, right? And the consequences of that is that people complain that the game is boring. And so the designers then add a skill tree.
Yeah.
Which doesn't really help. I mean, it probably helps if you're playing it on that, like, what's the word, superficial level or whatever, right? Where it's you're just spamming buttons, and then, oh look, now there's a cooler spamming button thing. Which is fine, by the way. I'm not saying people are not allowed to play like that. I just think that people that care about games should definitely not play like that, right? If that makes sense. Like,
yeah.
If you, I don't know, take a game seriously, right? It's not, you shouldn't. I feel like I see that a lot with the designers, where they'll argue about all these, you know, addictive mechanics or whatever. Like, because skill trees are sort of that. I don't know if you agree. It's progression systems, right? And and the argument is always, oh, it feels good, and I don't know. It's so strange to me, because if you play games seriously, and I don't mean that sounds so elitist or whatever, but I don't know what else other word to use. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, like if you take games seriously.
Yeah, if you play the games on the hard difficulty and try to understand the mechanics and the nuances or whatever, right? You're not just playing through a bunch of games.
Yeah.
Then you quickly realize how I don't know what word to use.
Shallow?
It's not even shallow, it's more like disgusting.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I don't know. But they are just not adding stuff, right?
Yeah.
There's, and maybe from like the where it came from the beginning or whatever, it made more sense. I guess it's from RPGs technically, and RPGs are kind of meh.
Yeah.
But also skill is relative, so I'm less critical of older games, because since games was new, right? If RPGs had developed to where they're actually utilizing their mechanics in interesting ways, right? It would, like you know, we always bring up Dicey Dungeons as a good example. I mean, it's not technically exactly an RPG, but it's very similar to what I would say RPGs should do in terms of mechanics, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But they're sort of just, they haven't evolved to that. They're the same thing, right? So
yeah.
Yeah, skill trees. Well, I don't remember what my point was, but
Yeah, I thought you. I don't really understand what the point was.
where did we start?
Difficulty, like.
Right. My point is just that that this, my argument. I was defending my argument, right? That difficulty is the problem because these systems are added because people are not interacting with the games enough, right?
Yeah.
Along with other things, I'm not disagreeing with you, right? I think obviously programmers add a lot to games as well. I'm not gonna dismiss them completely, but I have a huge problem with a lot of how programmers look at game design. I don't know if you agree.
Yeah, I agree.
And I say that as someone that, I am a programmer technically, right?
Yes.
So it's not, out of ignorance or whatever. I feel like a lot of...
You are a part of the problem.
Yeah, well...
But I guess what you're saying.
Yeah, like a lot of game these days, I feel like suffer not only because of stuff we talked about before with the designers and stuff. It's also the programmers, right? Because of all the technical complexity and stupid... Yeah. That's for the future.
Yeah.
Back on topic.
Yeah. Yeah, did you have anything else to say, or?
No, we were just discussing the hard versus...
Yeah.
And goals.
Yeah, I do agree. Like, but I guess what I was trying to say is that, like, it matters that it's hard. It's very important that it's hard, but a game can also be hard and have pointless mechanics. That's sort of what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it could be easy and be interesting as well, I guess.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah. Well, I think that
needs to be...
If we take Deus Ex as an example, maybe, like if we tuned up the difficulty a bunch in Deus Ex, I'm not sure. Maybe actually, I mean, then it would probably just become a stealth game.
Yeah.
But like,
wouldn't you say the core loop is kind of weak as well? It's like a weak first-person shooter as well.
Yeah. It's like yeah, it's a very shallow FPS.
Yeah, so it's a shallow FPS with a lot of mechanics.
Yeah. Exactly, with a bunch of mechanics bolted on.
Doesn't sound that interesting, actually. When I say it like that.
It's not a... It isn't a very interesting game, right? I think Deus Ex is very overrated. But yeah. But there was one more like big point I wanted to bring up today, and that's to sort of clarify that this isn't necessarily only a problem with immersive sims, right? I guess we've made that sort of clear today already, but like, I want to bring up some examples, or one example in particular, which has a very simple core mechanic, but has very deep consequences, right? Because that's sort of the main point I want to make today. It's that the consequences of the mechanic matters. It's not that the mechanics themselves.
Yeah.
And that's Devil Daggers. Now, Devil Daggers is like, it's an FPS where it's like an arena, and basically the main, like, there's obviously a bunch of execution elements, right? You need to aim and hit and whatever, and you need to hop around to dodge the enemies. But looking at the game from a strategic/tactical point of view, right? The main mechanic there is the farming. So essentially the way the game works is that there's a bunch of enemy spawners that spawn in on a timer, or on a clock, I guess. And the player decides when to destroy these spawners. And so the spawners spawn enemies that drop little gems, and the gems power you up. And so the sort of main strategic decision, I guess, the player has to make when playing Devil Daggers is when to destroy these spawners, right? Because if you don't destroy the spawners, because they keep coming, right? And so if you don't destroy the spawners, you're going to get overwhelmed by enemies. But if you do destroy the spawners, you get way less XP or whatever, and so you don't become more powerful.
Yeah.
And that's a fairly simple mechanic, right? It's like it's an enemy spawner and you get to choose when it blows up. But the actual like gameplay implications of that are super interesting, right? Because all of a sudden the player needs to make like the player needs to make the decision when to stop farming enemies, right? And when to destroy all the spawners. Or maybe they want to like destroy a few spawners and keep a few of them up. Or like if you're really good at the game, you just keep all the spawners up, but then the game becomes like insanely difficult. And like there are a bunch of interesting implications like that from a very simple mechanic. And I think that's the reason I wanted to bring this example up, right, is because I want to clarify that it's like you shouldn't focus on what the mechanic is. You should focus on what the mechanic makes the player do in a way. Which I think a lot of immersive sims miss. It's like, we've talked about it already. It's like, oh yeah, you can pick the lock, or you can use magic, or you can do whatever, and none of it matters. And so the actual way the player plays the game isn't very interesting because essentially it's just a low budget, janky FPS, right? But with something like Devil Daggers, it's like it's a pretty simple mechanic, but it like the player needs to make very interesting decisions because of it, I guess.
Yeah, but those interesting decisions are also arising from the fact that it's hard, right? That we mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
So I think you like it's sort of correct what you're saying, that you can make a hard game that's bad, but I feel like you need the challenge to make it interesting, right? So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if Devil Daggers was easy, it wouldn't be good, right? Because then it wouldn't matter if you left the spawners up or not, right? That's a very good point, right?
Consequences.
Yeah. The reason that it matters a lot when I decide to kill the spawners is because if I kill the spawners, I get less XP, which makes the game harder long term. But if I don't kill the spawners, the game becomes super hard short term, and then I die anyways.
Yeah.
But like if Devil Daggers was easy, there would be no point in not keeping the spawners up, right? So that's a very good point.
Yeah. So it would literally make the game's core like ideas break down, right?
Yeah.
That's why it's good to bring up the thing. Sorry, continue.
Well, the thing about sort of as I said before, I don't think immersive sims would necessarily become good by just making them harder, because the systems don't actually matter, right? Like even if the game is hard.
Matter. So if we make a simple example, right? If it's very hard, and like you said, oh, I need to go get the key, but there's a bunch of dudes there. Now it's all of a sudden a big deal that you didn't have lockpicking. Yeah. Right?
Yeah,
because you need to go there and you might lose all your health or something. I'm not saying it would work to just make the games harder, right? There's probably more issues with them. For example, that the core is not that good, right? But I think it would help a lot, because if you can just do anything at any time and, it doesn't add, how should I say this? Well, I guess it's just what we just said, right? That's the consequences is diminished by the fact that it's not hard, right? If there are any in the mechanics.
Yeah. Do you have anything else you want to bring up? Any good points?
I mean,
I know what you're gonna say now.
What am I gonna say?
Well, we could talk about this forever, but we don't have time.
Oh,
okay, go ahead.
Well, I don't know if I had anything more to say, but I was just thinking about the other genres, right? Just to clarify your point.
Well, I mean,
No, you can go ahead.
Yeah, well, I think we talked about this like 2 or 3 episodes ago, with like pointless mechanics in RPGs, where it's like, oh, you can do kingdom building now because you're the king of this land, but then there's also like classic D&D CRPG gameplay, and like it makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah.
I think that's also a perfectly good example of this problem, right? Because the kingdom building part is like completely pointless and not related to the rest of the game. It's just like complexity for the sake of complexity, I guess.
Yeah. I guess I see this a bit in like shoot 'em up stuff as well, because I keep track of shoot 'em up stuff where a lot of the designers, I feel like, focus a lot on, I guess it's complexity. I don't know what word to use, but it's you'll hear a discussion or like read a discussion about something, and they're discussing I don't know, some obscure way the scoring system is supposed to work, right? Where it's you should do this and this and this, but then this thing and that and this and that, right? And then that's very theoretical, I guess. Is the problem.
Yeah.
So how that will play out very much depends on the fact, or well, the difficulty will matter, right? So I guess the point I'm trying to make is, especially with a genre like shoot 'em ups, you really want to focus on, I mean, you can make the, obviously there's scoring focus, but it shouldn't be man, I don't have a good way to say this at all. My point is that those games are in general not that complicated, right? And so they are very fundamental focused, which means that you need good, like you said with Devil Daggers, you need a good core, right?
Yeah.
So you can't just throw a bunch of ideas together. It's not gonna work at all in that genre. You need to I kind of know how to say it now. If you add mechanics, they have way more consequences, right?
Yeah.
So if you have something like a shooter, I mean, it's not completely true, but my point, it's sort of, because it's the same in other genres, but having pointless systems in something like a shoot 'em up is worse than in some other genres, because it's so focused on the core, right? You're just there's no space for any other it's auto scrolling, right? And you're just dodging, so there's no space for any. Yeah, I don't know if anything about that makes sense, but yeah.
I think it's good that you brought up shmups, because I do have something to say about them. Maybe that's sort of what you were trying to say too.
I don't know. Maybe.
I think that I play a little bit of shmups, right? You play way more than me, but I've tried out a few, and the thing that I enjoy about shmups is dodging bullets, right? It's right, like the fun part of playing a shmup is like dodging insane bullet patterns. Yes. And so the problem with a lot of shmups that add complexity is that they not only add complexity, they take away from the dodging patterns thing, right? Yeah. Where it's like, I don't know. Do you have any good examples? I guess Ikaruga is a bit like this, right? Because in Ikaruga you have the like swap. Exactly.
But that's not so necessarily bad, right? That's
no, absolutely not.
But yeah, that's actually a really good example, because that's sort of what I meant. Where if you add mechanics, it immediately changes what the game is about, right?
Yeah.
Immediately, because it's so core focused. Whereas in other genres, it might not ruin it as hard adding things, right? Or I shouldn't say ruin, but you know what I mean. Like, it doesn't change the core so dramatically so fast.
Yeah.
But like,
yeah, I think Ikaruga is a pretty good example, because for those of you that haven't played it, it's like a shmup, but like it's like half the bullets don't damage you and half the bullets do, and then you can flip between which half of them damage you, right? Because they're different colors. And the thing about Ikaruga, as you said, it's not a bad game, right? But the thing that happens with Ikaruga is that it's not a game about dodging bullets, it's a game about flipping the color of to the right bullets, right?
Which is also cool. It's just not...
It's not a shmup.
That kind
or, well, it is a shmup, but like it's not... Yeah, that kind of shmup. And so, that's a very good point. Like, adding mechanics, you know, you don't only need to think about what the consequences of that mechanic is, but also, like, what the consequences on the mechanics you already have are from adding that mechanic, right? I think that's a very good point.
Yeah, because so one thing I see a lot is people have figured, I think I've mentioned this before, people have figured out that it's very satisfying to cancel bullets. So so canceling bullets means removing them, right? From the screen. And they are very correct. It is very satisfying to remove bullets from the screen. The problem is, it's you know, the core we just mentioned earlier. It ruins the core, right? If you can just, I mean, you can do it and you can still have dodging, but if you overdo it, then the dodging doesn't matter. It's about canceling, right? And I feel like, you need to be careful there, I guess.
Yeah.
A lot of the games people are making in that genre now feels like they're moving towards that, which I don't like as much, I guess. Not that there is cancels. Like, even even really good ones have a lot of it, but you need to think about how much, I guess, or whatever, because then you remove the dodging, right? Becomes a different game.
Yeah. I did actually have another mechanic, and I think it's sort of related to this, but in another way. And that's the AWP from CS. So I had this discussion with someone else a few weeks ago, and basically the conclusion I came to, right? Or, well, I'll just explain it. Anyway, so the thing he said was like, the AWP is super interesting in CS because of how the AWP works. It's like, oh, you shoot one shot and then they die if you hit them in the body, and then the guy who shoots the AWP is out of combat for like a few seconds while he like rechambers the round or whatever. But I don't agree with that, because and I'm explaining this really poorly. So look at Call of Duty, for example, right? Call of Duty also has a sniper or several snipers. Those snipers also kill in one bullet to the chest, and you also need to spend like a second rechambering the round or whatever. And sniper rifles aren't at all nearly as interesting in Call of Duty as they are in Counter-Strike. And the reason for that is because the implications of adding a sniper rifle into Counter-Strike are way, way, way larger. Like, the consequences of adding it are way larger than adding it in Call of Duty. In Call of Duty, it doesn't really matter if the guy you're shooting at has a sniper rifle or not. Like, you don't care about what weapon the other guy has. You just want to kill him as fast as possible. And like, only what you do matters in a way. Whereas in Counter-Strike, if the other guy that you're like fighting against has an AWP, that's like very important information, right? It's like, if he has an AK and he's holding an angle that you're wanting to peek, you're gonna peek that angle very differently from if he had an AWP. And that's the thing that makes the AWP interesting, right? It's not how the AWP works itself, it's the consequence that the AWP has on the other mechanics of the game. And so I guess the point I wanted to make with this example is that, like, what is the point? Well, it's that the context matters, I guess. It's like, or well, it's that the consequences matter once again. So basically, I'm making the same point as with the Devil Daggers example, right? It's like, the AWP is interesting not because of how the AWP works, it's interesting because of the implications it has on the gameplay. Because all of a sudden, if I'm up against someone with an AWP, I need to think differently compared to if I'm up against someone with an AK. And that's interesting. Whereas, you know, in Call of Duty, it doesn't matter if he has a sniper rifle or an AK, because I just do the same thing anyways.
Yeah. And I guess
does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess. And that in that case, you can't argue the difficulty. I mean, you can.
Well, it is difficult in a way.
In using the weapons or something, but
yeah.
But it's not the game being difficult, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of the limitations of the other weapons that make that.
Exactly.
Because you can't. In Call of Duty, you can probably hit the sniper guy, right, with a AK, and it's gonna be fine.
Yeah.
Because of.
Yeah, it's like. Because all of a sudden the enemy player has different strengths and weaknesses, right?
Yeah.
And that's the interesting part. And so you need to approach him differently.
Also, the maps are probably not built as well, right?
Yeah,
I would say CS maps have spaces that are dangerous to move around, and I mean, I shouldn't talk about Call of Duty maps because it was quite a while since I played Call of Duty, but I feel like they are not as they don't have these danger zones in the same way.
Yeah. At least not the old ones.
Yeah, I don't think they have that either.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that's.
But I think even if you did
war zone stuff, and I don't know.
Yeah.
Battle Royale stuff. We need to talk about that sometimes, man. I hate.
Yeah. But I think like even if the maps were more designed for like clear sniper lines, I don't think it would matter very much still, because like.
I mean, there's also the mechanics that you don't have. Like, you can just swap to a sniper and you're alive again, and I guess I guess it matters a little bit more in something like Search and Destroy, probably. I don't know. Which the CS style mode.
Yeah, the CS game mode in COD. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Do you have any more points?
No, I'm done talking.
You're done talking.
I don't want to talk anymore.
I'm also done talking. So, as usual, thanks everyone for watching. And if you agree, leave a comment. If you disagree, leave a comment. Leave a like or a dislike also. And subscribe, of course. Did I miss anything?
I don't know. Thank you for watching.
I don't think so. Thank you for watching, everyone.
Yes.
Have a fantastic day. Goodbye.
Bye.